In episode 22, Ateş and Semel begin a desperate search for the taxi driver who took Mercan away. Before the video starts, let me remind you, if you haven't watched the previous episode and want to understand how events unfolded, be sure to visit my channel and watch the earlier episodes. Ateş and Semel finally find the taxi driver and question him. Trembling with fear, he tells them that Mercan was abducted by armed men wearing masks. He confesses that they threatened to kill him, his family, and his children if he went to the police. Hearing this, Ateş explodes with rage, furious that the driver didn't come to them immediately after the kidnapping. Semel steps in, calming Ateş down and reminding him that the driver is not to blame. They let the man go. Overwhelmed with guilt, Ateş blames himself, saying that Mercan was taken right before their eyes and that he allowed it to happen. Nizar begins to suspect Aslı's involvement in Mercan's disappearance. Aslı firmly denies any connection, insisting that she did nothing to Mercan. Their conversation is accidentally overheard by Semel. He confronts Aslı, telling her that he has been seeing her around Nizar far too often and warning her to stay away from him. Soon after, Ateş receives a message informing him that footage from traffic surveillance cameras has been sent. Ateş and Semel spend the entire night reviewing the recordings, but find nothing at first. Only at the very last moment does Ateş notice a suspicious car emerging from the forest. He realizes that the taxi was taken there. They pull up a map and study the area. Semel explains that he knows the location well. There are 3 factories, an old warehouse, and several abandoned houses nearby. Ateş concludes that Mercan may be held in one of those places. He takes a gun, and together with Semel, they prepare to head out. At that moment, Müzeyyen enters the room and asks if they have any news about Mercan. Ateş looks at her in silence for a few seconds, says nothing, and leaves. Semel follows him. Meanwhile, Aslı watches a video on her phone of Mercan drowning, observing the scene with cold satisfaction. Nizar goes to Haydar and Nurman, assuring them that he will stand by their side and do everything in his power to find Mercan. Ateş and Semel arrive at the location with their men. Ateş orders everyone to split up, search every area thoroughly, and report immediately if they find anything. The men scatter in different directions. Ateş and Semel also separate to search on their own. At the same time, the pool where Mercan is being held is already half filled with water. Bound and helpless, Mercan begs the men standing above her to let her go. They circle the pool in silence, watching her struggle. As Mercan looks more closely, she notices a tattoo on one of the men's arms. She asks what they want from her, pleading once again for mercy, but receives no response. Meanwhile, Ateş finds the scarf Mercan used to wear around her neck. Recognizing it instantly, he carefully examines the ground and notices tracks leading inside. Realizing Mercan was likely brought there, Ateş calls Semel and tells him that he may have found her. Ateş enters the factory and begins searching. Suddenly, he hears Mercan screaming for help. Realizing she is inside, he calls out her name and breaks down the door. Hearing the noise, the masked men call Aslı and inform her that someone has arrived. Aslı assumes it may be Ateş and orders them not to harm him, but she coldly insists that Mercan must not be left alive. The men rush out to stop Ateş. As he forces his way inside, they attack him from behind, striking him on the head with a stick. The blow is not strong enough to knock him unconscious. Ateş fights back fiercely, disarms them, and pushes forward. When he finally bursts inside, he sees Mercan already drowning in the pool. Ateş prepares to jump in to save her, but the masked men reappear behind him. A brutal fight breaks out. During the struggle, Ateş shouts to Mercan not to be afraid, promising that he will save her and that nothing will ever separate them again. He makes her a vow. Realizing they cannot defeat him by force, the men pull out a knife. Ateş is stabbed in the shoulder. Aslı watches everything unfold on her phone with icy satisfaction. The men force Ateş to his knees and restrain him. Meanwhile, the water level rises higher and Mercan begins to choke. Wounded and exhausted, Ateş is forced to helplessly watch as Mercan sinks beneath the water. He screams her name and begs the men to release her, pleading for them to direct all their hatred toward him instead, but they hold him down, refusing to let go. As Mercan becomes almost completely submerged, Ateş is overcome by the terror of losing her forever. The thought of a life without her gives him sudden strength. With a powerful surge, Ateş breaks free, strikes the men with all his might, and forces them to flee. Without hesitation, Ateş jumps into the pool, frees Mercan, and pulls her out of the water. She lies unconscious. Desperate, Ateş begs her not to leave him, pleading for her to open her eyes. He begins performing chest compressions. Mercan's heart starts beating again, but she still does not wake up. Holding her close, Ateş whispers tenderly, "You can't leave me, my love, my Mercan, my life, my beautiful one." Moments later, Mercan finally opens her eyes. With great effort, Ateş lifts Mercan into his arms and carries her to the car, placing her gently in the back seat. He tells her not to speak and not to strain herself. Mercan, weak but conscious, asks about his condition. Ateş replies softly that if she is fine, then he is fine too. He presses her head gently against his chest, wanting to feel her breathing, to know she is alive. Promising to take her to the hospital, Ateş starts the car, and they drive away.